I never thought a routine morning at the office would turn into a moment that changed my children's lives. I arrived at work with my usual brisk pace, coffee in hand, files stacked under my arm, when a subtle sound stopped me mid-step. It was coming from the break room. I peeked in, expecting to see someone humming or the radio playing softly, but instead, I found our janitor, Maria, sitting cross-legged on the floor, a bucket in front of her, tapping it in a rhythm that seemed impossibly complex for such a simple instrument. My curiosity held me frozen at the door. What caught me wasn't just her rhythm, it was the way she seemed alive in it, smiling at every beat, her movements flowing naturally, almost like she was conducting an invisible orchestra. I had never noticed her beyond her uniform and cheerful greetings. I wondered if anyone else saw what I saw, until I remembered my children waiting at home. My twins, Liam and Emma, had been born deaf. They communicated through sign language, but music was a world they couldn't access, a vibrant landscape locked behind a door they couldn't open. The thought made my chest ache. Seeing Maria, though, something clicked inside me. Could this be a key? I quietly stepped back to my desk, but her rhythm followed me through the halls, echoing in my mind. That evening, I told Liam and Emma about the janitor who made music with nothing but a bucket. They looked intrigued, tilting their heads in unison. I hesitated, unsure how they would react to the idea of rhythm they couldn't hear. But to my surprise, their eyes lit up. We returned the next day after school, sneaking into the office to watch Maria again. She smiled at the three of us immediately, her hands moving with grace, tapping, clapping, and using her body to create vibrations. Maria noticed the twins' curiosity. She knelt beside them, her eyes sparkling with understanding. She began to show them how to feel the beat through vibrations. She tapped the bucket, placing their hands on it. Slowly, their small fingers began to move in sync with her rhythm. Their faces mirrored amazement as they realized that sound wasn't just in the air, it could be felt. I watched, almost holding my breath, as they discovered a new way to experience the world. Maria didn't speak much, she didn't have to. Her hands, her body, and the bucket communicated everything. It was a language I had never known, one that my children were beginning to understand instinctively. Days turned into weeks. Maria became a fixture in our lives. She visited after school, bringing drums, plastic buckets, and even simple xylophones she had scavenged. The twins grew confident, learning to express themselves through rhythm, slapping surfaces, clapping hands, tapping pencils, even stomping feet in perfect coordination. I watched them laugh in ways I had never seen before, their faces alive with joy, their energy uncontainable. One afternoon, Maria introduced them to simple melodies by tapping different surfaces in sequence, showing them how patterns could create tunes. I realized that for the first time, Liam and Emma were composing music, not just imitating it. Maria encouraged them to create their own rhythms, to feel their own vibrations, and to tell their stories through percussion. They began experimenting, combining fast, frantic beats with slow, dramatic ones. Their tiny bodies became instruments themselves, moving in harmony with the vibrations they could feel. I felt tears prick my eyes. Something fundamental had shifted. My children were finding a voice they had never known, a language beyond spoken words. One Friday, Maria suggested we perform a small piece for the office. My heart raced at the idea. My children had never shared this secret with anyone else. But the twins were eager, their faces shining with excitement. Maria coached them patiently, showing them how to synchronize their movements, how to convey emotions through rhythm, and how to connect with an audience without sound. I watched, stunned, as they practiced tirelessly. Their enthusiasm was infectious. Even the office staff gathered around to watch, drawn by the energy emanating from the room. The performance day arrived, and the twins' tiny hands moved with precision, striking buckets, tapping desks, clapping together in perfect harmony. The office erupted into applause, but the twins didn't hear it, they felt it, the vibrations traveling through the floor and the furniture, enveloping them in warmth and love. Maria smiled, her eyes gleaming, as she witnessed their triumph. I realized that the janitor had not only taught my children music but had also given them confidence, courage, and the understanding that they could connect with the world in ways we had never imagined. The next week, Daniel noticed a black car parked near the school's entrance. It was there in the morning when he arrived, and still there when he left. His gut twisted. He didn't want to alarm Max, so he stayed quiet, but he remained on high alert. That afternoon, while cleaning the gym, Daniel heard footsteps echoing behind him. He turned sharply, mop handle ready, but it was just the principal. "Mr. Miller, are you all right?" she asked, noticing his tension. "Fine," he replied, forcing a smile. But he wasn't fine. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming. Later that evening, as he and Max walked home, the same black car rolled slowly down the street behind them. Daniel's chest tightened. He pulled Max closer, quickening their pace until they reached their apartment. He didn't sleep that night. He sat in a chair by the window, watching the street. 2 nights later, the threat became real. Max was staying at a friend's house for a sleepover, and Daniel was grateful for it. Near midnight, he heard a noise outside. When he stepped onto the small balcony, he saw shadows moving near the building's entrance. 3 figures. His heart pounded. He grabbed the cracked mop, the only weapon he had, and crept downstairs. The men were trying to force the lock. "Looking for me?" Daniel's voice cut the silence. They turned, sneering. "You think you embarrassed us? We'll show you what happens when a janitor plays hero." The fight was brutal. Without students or teachers around, there was no need to hold back. Daniel fought like the Marine he once was, swift, precise, relentless. The mop handle cracked again as he used it to block strikes, jab throats, and sweep legs. But the men were strong and angry, landing blows that left him gasping. Finally, with blood on his lip and fire in his eyes, Daniel knocked the last man down, pinning him until neighbors called the police. When officers arrived, Richard was there too. He had been alerted by Daniel's earlier concerns and rushed over. He looked at Daniel, battered but unbroken. "You can't live like this anymore," Richard said firmly. "Come work for me. I'll make sure you and your son are protected. You've given enough of yourself to hide in the shadows." Daniel finally nodded, realizing it wasn't just about him anymore. Max deserved safety, and maybe a future brighter than his father had ever known. Months later, life looked different. Daniel no longer wore a janitor's uniform. Instead, he had a stable role in Richard's company, managing security operations, a job that fit his skills and gave him purpose. Max was thriving too. He walked taller, proud of his dad, no longer teased for having a father who just cleaned floors. The cracked mop hung on the wall of their apartment, framed like a trophy. It wasn't a weapon anymore, it was a reminder of courage, of the day everything changed. People still whispered about the story at school. Some said it was unbelievable, that no janitor could take down 3 men. But those who had seen it knew the truth. For Daniel, the attention didn't matter. What mattered was that he had proven to his son, and to himself, that courage wasn't about titles or uniforms. It was about choices. One afternoon, as he walked Max home, the boy looked up at him. "Dad, when I grow up, I want to be like you." Daniel smiled, his heart full. "Then you'll be better than me, buddy." Across town, the men who had attacked him were behind bars, facing charges for assault and attempted extortion. The threat was gone, at least for now. Life wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful again. And for a man who had spent years just trying to survive, peace felt like the greatest victory of all. Richard remained a friend, visiting often, grateful not just for the protection that day in the schoolyard but for the reminder of what real strength looked like. Daniel's story spread beyond the town, sometimes told in headlines, sometimes in whispers. But for him, it always came down to one simple truth: he wasn't a hero because he fought with a mop. He was a hero because, when faced with a choice, he chose to stand up. And in that choice, he changed everything, for the CEO, for his son, and for himself.